Welcome to the Women Living Well After 50 podcast. I'm Loncaric, and I'm passionate about inspiring, motivating, supporting and informing women over 50 to embrace this exciting time of life. Health and wellness in mind, body and spirit are the foundations for living well, but there is so much more to a life well lived. Each week, through conversations with my guests, I'll be presenting topics that will help us all to live well and enjoy life. So join me as we discover new ways to become women living well after 50. Are you ready to start living? What are you waiting for? Let's get started. Welcome to another episode of the Women Living Well After 50 podcast. I'm Loncaric, and it's lovely to have you join me. How are you feeling? Are you feeling strong? Are you feeling resilient? Are you feeling that zest for living? After we turn 50, we're going through menopause and our bodies are changing with hormones and we're moving and transitioning into retirement. Life changes and sometimes we're really not sure how to react to that. Now, I've got an inspiring guest today who will be sharing her story, and I was so inspired by Kim's story that I really wanted to have her on the show. So Kim Rahir is a health coach for women, helping them to drop weight, get strong and boost their energy. A former journalist turned health coach, Kim was diagnosed with MS 10 years ago, and as an MS survivor has now turned that around and has recently won the European champion in master weightlifting in her age group. Kim is on a mission to help women embrace muscle and strength as the one-stop shop solution for a host of health problems, often starting in our 30s. I'm also going to be talking to Kim about her attitude to life, how to be resilient, what that means, and also we're going to touch on why we shouldn't be eating healthy food. I can't wait for that one. So let's go and join the conversation. Welcome, Kim. It is lovely to have you join me here on the Women Living Well After 50 podcast, and you have such an inspiring story to share that I can't wait for our listeners to hear it.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for hosting this great show and for the work that you do.
Thank you. Now, I've read about your story, and in the intro I gave a little bit of information about what you've been through, and I just wonder if we could go back, say, 10 years and where you were in life and what happened to you, and then come forward to where you are today.
Absolutely. So I have 3 kids. I used to be a journalist, my husband too, and we always traveled the world, dragging our kids from country to country every 4 years. And while we were in Germany, we had just arrived there, and I felt really good about stuff that I had achieved. It was the first time I had a steady job again as a journalist, not working as a freelancer and following my husband around, and my 3 kids. So I felt very successful, having proven that you could have a great career and a family and everything could work out, because I had been brought up with this idea that, as a woman, you have to choose, and I didn't want to do that. And then from one day to the next, I literally struck down by something really weird. It started with me seeing double. So I was sent to the hospital, lots of tests and everything. And while I was in the hospital and I had to spend 6 weeks there, progressively, I couldn't use my legs. They became paralyzed. I couldn't even wiggle my toes. And that was it was a scary experience because they couldn't really put their finger on what it was. They thought it was something autoimmune, but they weren't sure. Because they have their definitions and notions, and I had symptoms from one syndrome and then symptoms from another syndrome. And while I was in hospital, I felt so powerless. I actually felt dehumanized. It sounds very harsh, but that's what happens, because you can't make any decision yourself. You don't decide when you go to bed. You don't decide when you wake up. I couldn't even decide when I was going to have a shower or go to the toilet because I couldn't walk. So that's a really deep and very powerful shock to the entire system. And um, while today I'm actually grateful for this experience, and I can explain that later, at the time it was terrifying, terrifying.
Mm.
I came home just before Christmas, and that was the first really very interesting experience because it was Christmas. I came home one day before. I hadn't bought any gifts. I hadn't decorated the tree. I hadn't done anything. Still, life had gone on. I was out of the equation from one day to the next, but everything happened. There was Christmas, there were presents, there was a tree. And I think so often as women, we think that we are irreplaceable. If we don't run our families, our homes, we don't do our job, everything will stop. And that puts a lot of pressure on us. When actually, I was out of the equation from one day to the next, and nothing stopped. The world kept on turning. And when you look at it in a certain way, it's actually quite liberating. So I got treatment for this, which was it was called a syndrome Guillain-Barré. It's supposed to be a one-off. I got treatment for a year. I was given a bill of clean health. I thought that's great. I have my life back. I was so happy. And then a year later, we had moved to France. My left hand, I felt it go numb. Back to the doctors because I knew what that kind of symptom meant. And this time they said, no, this is different from what you had before. This is actually an autoimmune attack on your nerve substance. And if it happens again, it's MS. And for me, that was, it's hard to describe the high that I felt when I was done with the first bout and thought, I can live a normal life again. And then being diagnosed with this a year later. And that was nearly exactly 10 years ago. Um, that was like really a low blow. And I could still hope that it
Mm.
wouldn't come back because you need 2 relapses before you're officially declared a patient. But after a year, I had another episode. It was very mild, but it came back, and I was officially an MS patient. And the one thing that I remember, and I think that was like a hint of what I was uh, wanting to do and what I was about to do, was when the doctor told me I would need lifelong treatment. I fought with him for an hour. I sat there and said, "Why? Why do we have to start this? My second relapse was so much milder. It was nothing. Maybe my body is getting better." And he wouldn't have any of it. He was used to women or patients talking back and asking these questions. He was quite patient, but then um, after an hour or so, he got a little bit impatient, and I had to accept this, that I was going to have lifelong treatment, um, which I know now. I didn't want this because it means giving your power away. I didn't want to give my power away. I had experienced firsthand when I was in the hospital what it feels like when you have, no say whatsoever over your life. So I didn't want that lifelong treatment and I had to accept it. But what I did was I asked him if I could exercise. And he said, "Yeah, okay, but be careful." And I thought, what does that even mean?
Mm.
Why does he tell me I can exercise, but I have to be careful? Now I think it means that at the back of his head, he thought, oh, yeah, exercise is supposed to be good, but I don't really know. I can't say no. Don't want to say yes. Who knows if what's going to happen? He didn't really know what he was talking about. So he gave this sort of, yeah, be careful, which, just imagine it would have scared me off doing this. And
Mm.
I wouldn't have gone on to train and become strong. I think it's a bit reckless. Doctors, I know they don't get the training for this, but they could have so many more weapons in their arsenal if they included exercise into their way of treating things or working about things. Luckily, I also had an appointment with a nurse who had to show me how to inject myself 3 times a week with that treatment. And she said, oh, exercise is great for MS because it makes the body fatigue resistant. So you train, your body gets fatigued, and it comes back stronger. And for me, that was the great green light. And I went to the gym and I started lifting weights, and I started sort of lifting heavy, not from day one, but that was my goal. Got myself a book, beautiful book, one of the first at the beginning of the 2000s, I think. Maybe it might even was end of the 90s. One of the first that said women need to lift heavy too, not tiny pink dumbbells, but lift. And I got stronger so fast. It was amazing, and everything got better. I had been told that certain reflexes that had been lost would never come back. They came back, and most of all, I felt so good and so confident. And I think that's the biggest sort of strength and muscle message of all, is that you're just going to feel awesome, and that will have a huge influence on your overall health. So today I'm lifting 3 times a week. I'm doing Olympic weightlifting. I think I'm stronger than ever in my life, and I have been without treatment and without any relapse for 6 years.
Oh, that's wonderful news. I was just going to say that there is the power of exercise. I have a friend who's a personal trainer, and she has a client who had Parkinson's, or has Parkinson's disease, and he was just relegated to a wheelchair. Now, it's been about 3 years, and the improvement, he doesn't have a wheelchair anymore. He can actually jog on the treadmill. He was doing a step class the other day, and he's an older gentleman, and what she has achieved with him, with the strength training and just exercise in general, is just remarkable. So as you say, the doctors, unless they're a specialist in a certain field, they don't really understand. So they have to hedge their bets. So that's probably what the doctor did with you, thinking, oh,
yes,
I can't really give her the green light in case something goes wrong, but it might be okay. So how did you feel when you were first struck down? I mean, you were going along so well in life, and then suddenly you're hit with this. What was your mindset like?
I think it was a mix of fear, and there was also a bit of disappointment. The disappointment because, as I mentioned, I thought that I had it all. I also thought of myself as being indestructible. I had this assumption, and I had been raised very sort of health consciously. My mom turned vegetarian in the 70s, and so I thought that I had sort of taken care of myself. It was not like the big regret. Oh my God, I neglected my health and now I'm paying the bill. There was nothing that I had done that could have brought this about, this sudden thing. So there was disappointment, and I'm like, come on, I did the right thing. Why is this happening? And then there was a lot of fear because nobody knew what was going on. I was impatient. I wanted to have the feeling in my legs back, because it's just, you lose everything when you can't walk. And the feeling was actually like there was a door in my soul that had sort of opened, and behind that door there was just darkness and blackness. And sometimes, the door was open a little bit wider on bad days, and it sort of creeps into you, this fear of the future. What's going to happen? Where am I going to be? And this idea that we all have of our lives, how we want to live them, what we want to do, it was all sort of meaningless because I had no idea what was going to happen to me. So I was very, very anxious to keep that door inside me, like, keep it shut, push it shut. And I didn't want that darkness to creep into me.
Because, as you say, it would be well, it comes as a bit of a shock, and especially if you've been someone who has looked after themselves, and then suddenly you get this, illness and or condition, and you think, why me? And then you start, getting down about things. And I know that was with me because last year I was actually diagnosed with cardiovascular disease, and I've always being healthy, fit, active, led a, very healthy lifestyle. But because of the genetic component, I'm at a higher risk. And so I think for me, what you do is, my philosophy is, it could have been so much worse if I hadn't been living that healthier lifestyle. So you're not immune to anything going wrong, but you do try to minimize the risks, or you minimize the effect that it has on you.
Absolutely. I think that's a very important thought, um, because very often I hear these reflections that, oh my God, look at this person. They did everything right, and still this happened to them. We don't even know what would have happened if they hadn't done everything right. As you
Mm,
say, it could have been so much worse. And it's also something that I have learned is there are no direct causalities. There's no way of saying, if you do this, then that will happen. You can just do your best every day, show up every day and do whatever you can, and be aware that, yes, there are parts of like your lifestyle and things, you are in charge of that and you want to do the
mm,
best you can, but it doesn't mean that you're in control. And this loss of control that I experienced has really taught me that I'm aware every day that everything that I'm enjoying now, it can be gone from one day to the next. And
mm,
it's not scary. It actually makes you enjoy today to the fullest, because
mm.
tomorrow is not a given. You and nobody on this planet knows what's going to be tomorrow. So make the most of today, and don't think in a way of, I'll do this, I do X, and then I get Y. You know, think of, I'll do X because I can and I want to, and it makes me feel good today. I
Mm.
think that's the only reasoning that will, um, you know, make it worthwhile, and make you feel empowered while still knowing that you cannot control everything.
No, that's right. But I think you also talk about being your own health advocate as well. And that means looking at living our life in its, what we can do on a daily basis to improve our health, improve our fitness, improve our lifestyle, so that we can age well and enjoy our life. Because as we, get older, we want to be fit enough to be able to do things. We don't want to be confined to a wheelchair or confined to bed, or not being able to do the simple daily tasks that we do now without thinking about. So it is important that we do take on the role of being our own health advocate to ensure that we respect ourselves enough to take care of ourselves as we would someone else, I think.
I think that's a great point, because I work with women, and women are so used to looking after everybody, everyone, everything all the time, um, and then their own well-being often comes last. Uh, and I think that's, in a way, it's innate, and it's not only in women. It's in humans. There are crazy statistics, about how people, for example, deal with prescription medication, their own prescription medication that could be saving their lives. They're not like very consistent in taking it. But if they have
Mm,
a pet, if they have a pet that needs medication, they will be spot on every single day and give their pet that medication. So they're caring for people around them more. And I
mm,
think it's a human trait, and it's very touching. But then, if you don't look after yourself, you'll be out of the equation, uh, to look after other people. So looking after yourself is also sort of an act of helping others,
mm,
which is sometimes not so easy to understand, especially when you have like a very busy schedule and you think that you're taking time away, from your duties and obligations and everything, when actually you're making the time that you then have to give, uh, much more valuable, more worth it, because you're a stronger, happier person to deal
mm,
with, which makes a
mm,
huge difference. I've seen so even friends of mine. I mean, they're like struggling so hard and running around the clock to look after their families, for example, and they're always stressed out, always yelling at their kids, always in a rush. So what is this for? If you end up having a really low quality of life. And that's the same thing about what you said about training and looking after yourself, being healthy, eating well. It's it's not about getting to a certain goal, like going somewhere, I don't know, losing weight, or getting to a point where you can do this, or getting to a point where you look like this. It's about quality of life today. And that's, if you don't see looking after yourself as a chore and start enjoying it, then you have quality of life right away the day you start doing something.
mm, mm. Yes, and you also say that imperfect action wins, which I think sort of ties in with that point you're saying, because a lot of people go, oh, it's probably either too late, or I don't know how to do this properly, or whatever. But if you just take some sort of action, you're actually winning, even if you're not perfect at it.
Absolutely. And I think this is, for many people, is quite discouraging, looking ahead, looking where they want to be, looking how far they still have to go to get there. Um, uh, that can make the tasks look so huge and so undoable that you don't even start. Whereas when you just, cut it down to bite-sized chunks and then see, what can I do today? That's the tiny thing. My next glass of water, my next meal, my next walk outside. Um, because if you move into the right direction, that's the point. The direction is more important than speed. Um, you are sure that you're moving closer to your goal.
Mm,
Whereas if you
mm,
just sit and look at that goal and think, oh my God, I'm never going to get there, then you're not moving. So
mm.
it's maybe it's counterintuitive to do small things. We want to do big things. We want to have big results, but it's the one thing that will actually get you where you want to be.
Mm. And I mean, you're the you've just won European weightlifting championships and so forth for your age group. And way back 10 years ago, when MS first struck you, if you had looked at the big mountain of trying to get over that back to health, it probably would have felt insurmountable. Whereas it sounds like you took that approach of trying to get little wins along the way and building, yeah, but not giving up.
And I think this was also a lesson from me, uh, experiencing that fear and that darkness sort of trying to creep into my soul. It was always worse when I thought about the future. It was, my kids were small at the time, and it was always worse when I thought, oh my God, where am I going to be in 3 years' time? Am I going to be? So I helped myself by just focusing on every single day and say, let's do today whatever we can and make it worth our while and make this a good one. Because I experienced myself that if I look too far ahead, and this was so uncertain, because with MS, nobody can predict it's going to be for you. So because this big picture scared me so much, I just dialed it back into the daily actions that I could do. And I think that's the one thing that will get you going and keep you going when, even when you're in a situation where you think, oh my God, this is so hard.
Mm, mm. And of course, going through that experience and probably proving yourself to be resilient, because I don't think until we're tested do we really know how resilient we are. But you've proven yourself to have that resilience to just keep going and not give up, because you do say that illness or a diagnosis shouldn't define a person.
Absolutely. And I think that's a big one. And I remember, after my diagnosis, we moved again. We moved to Spain. I joined a new gym, made new friends. I didn't tell anybody I had MS. never. I didn't want that identity of a sick person. I just wanted to live my life. And I do think that's a decision you make when you get a diagnosis. You know, who do you want to be? Do you really want to let that thing define you? And when you do, it's going to be so much harder to do things because it's like, self limitation. You might think, oh my God, I can't do this because I have this, or no, I'm not going to try because I am this. Whereas if you sort of refuse to let that define you, then, let me just try something. Oh, this is interesting. Give it a go.
Mm.
And I think actually, for example, when I started weightlifting and started competing, um, I don't think I would have done that when in my 30s. It was something that sort of happened, evolved because a coach showed me how to do this. I loved it, found it like challenging and amazing. Then I changed my gym, went to pure weightlifting gym, and they said you got to compete, and I said what? And I think that I was able to say yes to that and go for that because I had left these limitations behind. I freed myself from, not only this idea of being a sick person, but only also this idea of being an old person, for example. I
Yes.
remember
Yeah.
when they first said, "Do you want to compete?" I said, "Do you know how old I am?" And they said, "Yeah, we don't
Mm.
care."
Mm. Mm.
So
And I
that's
think,
liberating.
yes, it is. And I was going to say that it's not justifying to having an illness. It could be anything. We've just put those limiting beliefs on ourselves, and especially as we age, because I had a similar situation where I had some younger friends and they were saying, oh, come on, we're going to do running or we're going to do this. And we've put you into boot camp. And I'd be saying, well, do you know how old I am? And they said, well, you're right, come on. And I did it and proved that I could do it. But it was that initial thing of, oh, I'm too old to do that. So, it doesn't have to be an illness that's holding you back. It could be many things that you sort of define yourself as, and then you put yourself into a little box, and you just can't get out of that. So, um, I wanted to talk to you about, you got into the strength training, and obviously, that's really helped you. Some of the benefits, because I mean, not everyone or a lot of women acknowledge the fact that we need to do strength training, especially as we get older, but they also don't understand it, I don't think, and they feel that they've got to be, lifting weights like, instead of building up to it, they feel that they've got to be lifting the heavy weights, or that they're going to get their muscles are going to get overdeveloped, or they have a fear of it, I think. And I just wondered if you could just go through a couple of benefits from, not even, I mean, we know that we need our strong muscles for our bodies and to keep strong as we age, but what are some of the benefits that you do get apart from the obvious benefits?
Yeah, I think that it's quite helpful to think about this in terms of movement and not muscles, um, because we are all influenced by these images from the 70s with Arnold, with like with just, I don't know, a pair of shorts and lifting and sweating and big men and a lot of iron. And they were working on just muscles and would do like 5,000 repetitions of bicep curls. That's not what this is. It's about movement. And as humans, we are designed to move every single day. Our bodies are built to push, to pull, to carry, to pick stuff up from the floor. And we do that when we're younger. When we have kids, we carry them around. We never even wonder about, will that give us insane muscle mass? Because we just carry them around. And that's what we want to train. Yes, we need to build the muscle, but we want to train those movements because they will keep us functional in everyday life. And as we age, they will allow us to roll on the floor with our grandkids. So if you change that frame and don't think so much about muscle, but more movement, you will already see one of the first benefits, which is that just keeping your independence and your functionality in everyday life. We
Mm.
also know now that muscle is really important for metabolic health. all the troubles that we have in our civilization with blood sugar management because we're eating too much sugar. Muscle will help with that tremendously because it's a natural reservoir, storage site in the body for sugar. That's where the body stores energy for when you have to move. So the more muscle you carry, the bigger your storage site is for sugar, and the less your body will have to struggle with blood sugar management. That's something that is really um, well, it's pretty new, and I think it's really exciting because it's a great benefit that you can get um, without having to go on harsh diets or injecting yourself or whatever it is. It's really that powerful. And then
Well,
what I think, yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say that that's an interesting point that I don't think many people would be aware of. And I know my husband has type 2 diabetes and struggling, we struggle to keep that blood sugar levels at the maintain them at the correct levels and that, but knowing that if you do have that muscle mass, that's where it will store the sugar for movement. And I think that point's so important. Don't worry about lifting, or thinking about it as strength. It's more about the movement. It's more about the metabolic effect that it has.
Absolutely. And it's quite natural. I think this is also something that goes back to these images from the gym. It's natural. We were built for this. And I even go further and I say we were optimized for this. What do I mean by that? It means that it's not that we live our lives and we sit at our desk and we eat, and if we want to be healthier or live a little bit better, then we start moving and maybe working out. It's uh, every day that we do not move and train our muscles and go for walks, we are actually going to get worse. So the
Mm,
baseline is the one where we are physically active every day, where we make physical efforts every day. That's where we are healthy. If we don't
mm,
do that, we will get worse every single day. We will not notice it right away, but I think that's an important point because sometimes we don't even realize that what we're doing, and for many people it's just living their lives. So many jobs are now sitting in front of a computer,
mm,
commuting, sitting in a car. It's not like you're asking to be sedentary, but you are more or less obliged to be sedentary in our modern day world.
mm,
But you
mm,
don't realize that you are, I mean, some people like when they say sitting is the new smoking.
mm,
I think that's a little bit exaggerated, but there is a point to us, not moving. That is really, it's a health hazard,
mm,
and we have to change. We have to change our mindset. Understand that if we want to be healthy, we need to move, and we have to fight for that. We have to be intentional about that because our
mm,
environment is not giving that to us. Our environment
mm,
is set up for us to sit, not move, and to eat around the clock.
mm.
That's the environment we're living in these days. And if we want to be healthy, we have to be intentional and actually, as I say, fight for our right to move.
Mm. And moving and the way we strengthen our bodies, it does give you confidence because as you get older, I mean, I'll be 67 this year, and just lately I've even been sort of feeling age creeping in. Although I move every day and I do work out, but it can you can become frail, which then you lose your confidence. You don't want to do things because you might fear that you'll fall over, or you don't have the energy to be able to live your life with doing things that you enjoy. So the benefits of keeping moving and keeping active is that it does build your self-confidence. And I know myself, I hold myself better. I feel stronger within myself, and I don't feel fragile. And I think that that's very important as we get older.
I think this is one of the biggest benefits of strength training, and this has been proven time and time again. It actually improves your mental health. It improves
Mm,
symptoms of anxiety, of depression, of low self-esteem. So actually you make yourself more confident and happier. And I think that this part of our health has so much carryover to all the other aspects of our health. If we are in a good mindset, um, and like really physically, it will influence us. We will stand taller.
mm,
We will carry ourselves differently. We will come across differently. And the interesting thing is that, as far as I know, scientists are not sure yet about the mechanism in the body that causes these mental health symptoms to improve when you strength train. They don't really know it, but the outcome is certain. If you do train, if you do become stronger, you will feel better about yourself. And I think especially for women 50s and beyond, that is so crucial because there's so much lack of confidence going on, so much
mm,
feeling of being invisible or irrelevant, and that boost, could really change your entire outlook on life. And I think it's a boost that is pretty easy to achieve. It's I think it's actually quite democratic. You don't have to join a gym or anything. You can work with your body weight. You can do it in your home. I think it's like, I mean, there's no magic pills, but it's very close to a secret weapon, I think.
mm, mm. Yes, no, I totally agree. Now, we're getting on into the interview, so I'd like to actually move on towards the healthy eating. And I just want to check something before I say it. But you were talking about exploring why trying to eat healthy is the worst strategy for people who want to drop fat and become lean and strong. And I mean that's what we all do, don't we? We as we get older, it is easier to put on that weight, and especially around the middle and so forth. So, what do you mean by that about not eating healthy food?
Well, the thing is not trying to eat healthy, because that's the thing I hear from uh, so many women. And I talk to women every day, and many of them say, "I'm just trying to eat healthy." And this is all about healthy aging. We have to be more specific. It's too vague. It's
Mm,
too vague. When you're in your 50s and you say, "I'm just trying to eat healthy," um, it's so easy to fall into the trap of eating tons of healthy nuts and healthy avocados. Um, so you will still be eating too many calories, or too giving your body too much energy, more than it needs. Um, and it's not very intentional. It's just, I think it's a way of, you know trying to change without changing.
mm,
Is you keep your habits. um, you just switch the foods that you're eating, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's actually good. If you exchange, I don't know, crisps for almonds or something, yes, you're harming your body less. But if you have a specific goal that you want to achieve, and that could be dropping fat, it could be becoming strong, it could be being able to run a marathon or whatever it is. If you have a specific goal, you have to have a specific intention in your eating. Something vague like trying to eat healthy will not really get you there, because as you're aging, you have to be more intent, because your body will not react to sort of blanket strategies anymore.
mm,
And
mm,
then the main part is also this, I'm trying to eat healthy. What am I telling myself? I'm not actually very confident of getting there, right? I'm trying, but it doesn't, not really working for me. Whereas when you tell yourself, um, for example, I'm going to eat to build muscle, then you have like a very specific um, intention. You know that you're going to have to eat a lot of protein. You know that you're going to have to eat a lot of vegetables to give your body all the nutrients that it needs to build muscle and to keep it like healthy and strong. Um, Whereas when you say, "Oh, I'm trying to eat healthy," it's a little bit like a declaration of defeat before you've even started.
And it's sort of, you're not really on board with it. It's sort of, oh, I'm trying, but I'm hating every minute of it. Or instead of
Yes.
trying to change the narrative and realizing that there are some delicious foods out there that are good for you. And as you say, thinking about what you're eating and why you're eating it, the protein that we need, and um, why do we need that? So I think it's, again, investing in your own health and being your own advocate to find out, to research, to take the time to understand what you need to do to keep healthy and to live well.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that many people still use food kind of for the wrong reasons.
Mm,
Um, I know that food is fun, food is pleasure, food is community, food is family, food is traditions, and that's fine. But I think if this is your number one goal or purpose that you follow with food, it's going to get you into trouble.
mm,
Um, like historically, food has always been for nourishment, for
mm,
sustenance, for making our body function. And we don't
mm,
have to give up these social and cultural aspects of food, but if we place the first focus on what do I want this food actually to do for me and my body, what do I need to feel happy, satisfied, strong, energized, and then build your meal from there, then food can still be fun, and you can still have family meals and traditional feasts or whatever it is. But if on your day-to-day basis you switch that focus just a little bit from food as just a pleasure or a distraction or something you use when you feel bored, shifting it and asking yourself, what can I actually achieve with this food? What will it do for me? And it will make the choices so much easier. It will make the choices obvious because everybody
mm,
knows that that a donut is not going to help you build muscle. But there's more to this. One more point that I really want to make, because sometimes you might feel like you have a really shitty day and you think you need something sweet. And when you keep with that intention and you ask yourself, what do I want this food to do for me? And you make this conscious choice. I have had a shitty day. I want a treat now, and it's okay. And I'm sure it's going to do that for me. It's going to hit that spot. Then it's fine. By all means, eat that donut. You're in control. You're making an intentional choice. And if it does
mm,
for you what you want it to do for you, then that's perfect. Um, but just sort of coasting along and eating whatever is sort of coming your way or thrown at you, it's not going to help you. You want to be as intentional and as specific as possible, especially when you're not 20 anymore, because your body needs very specific and sometimes also some pushed strategies when it comes to protein, for example.
mm, mm. So before we start closing the interview, I want to talk about the work that you do with women. So I noticed that on your website, you to even make a start, you have a health and strength assessment. What's involved with that?
This is something where you want to find out, and I think this is essential when you start, like a fitness journey, or you want to change your lifestyle. You have to know where you're at, right? When you want to go from A to B, first you have to be very clear. Where's A? Where's my A? Where am I right now? And I think it's sometimes a problem when women, midlife women, want to start working out and they read online that HIIT training is the best that you can do for fat loss, and then they start doing high intensity interval training and they get hurt because it's like really super intense, and you have to be in shape to do HIIT. You can't use it to get in shape. So you want to know where you're at. So this assessment is like a holistic questionnaire. So it's not only about can you do 5 push-ups. You want to know how functional you are and
Mm,
how you feel in your everyday life. You might have pretty good muscle tone still, but you might have very low energy. So you know, these are all things that come into play in that assessment. So you know exactly where you're at, because that's where you need to start, and that's where I start with the women I work with. We'll first assess and find out what exactly is their status, and what is then the right next step for them to take.
Mm, mm. And do you do your work with them online or in person, or a combination of both?
It's all online, absolutely
Yep.
online.
That's
So
been
I
the
work with
beauty
women
of
around the world. Yes,
yes, yes. I think one of the positives out of the pandemic was that we discovered this online world, and I do sometimes I do my workouts with online, and there's so much information, so many people you can work with who aren't, who are on the other side of the world, which you are to me, and so that's great. But you call it the elegant muscle solution. And I rather like that phrase.
I think so, for two reasons. Because first of all, I think muscle is elegant on a woman, because it's shapely, it's toned, um, it also shows strength and independence. And I also think it's an elegant solution, because it's a one-stop shop thing. If you start looking after your muscle mass, many things will fall in place that you worry about in middle age. Your energy levels, your posture, your sleep, your blood sugar, your metabolism. By just focusing on this one thing, you can solve so many problems. And that's why I think it's an elegant solution.
I like that. Now, I will be putting all your links in the show notes, and I know that you have been on other podcasts as well, so I will encourage listeners to seek those out, because you do have a wealth of information, as well as having that inspirational story. You've actually lived it all, and that's, experience just counts for so much, doesn't it? But before we go, I usually ask a question of all my guests. But before I get to that, I just want to know if there's anything else that you'd like to say before we close the interview for today.
I just want to come back to what you said, and want to encourage everybody to do something today. Um, it's never too late. That's really very important. And I want to inspire you to let go of that big picture. I know we're told to you have to see the big picture, and it's very helpful in many respects. But for your health and well-being, right now, make it very small. Do something small. Right now, take drink a glass of water, take a walk, build a great meal for your next meal. Um, make it focused on today and what you can do now, and then the big picture will take care of itself.
Mm, mm. I've been doing a little exercise during the month with a friend, um, not together, but we committed to doing 30 minutes of exercise every day, and it could be all different things. And what I do is, when I've done it, I tick it on the calendar. And as I look at my calendar on the wall there, I've got ticks going. Now, again, if you miss a day because life gets in the way, you have to accept that and not beat yourself up. But it does, when I'm looking at all the little ticks on the calendar, it encourages me and motivates me to keep going, and it shows me what I've been able to do, and there's that sense of satisfaction of, oh, I've done that, I can tick that off. So that works for me.
Yes, that's great. And it's also very good advice to everyone. Always measure backwards when you are on a journey. Don't look at where you still have to go, but look at how far you've come, and that will, give you positive reinforcement and empower you.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Well, look, it's been lovely to have you as my guest, Kim. And before you go, I just want to ask you this question, and is, what does being a woman living well mean to you?
To me, it means a woman who knows what she needs and does what she can to get it. And I don't mean this like in a material way of I need 5 colors of lipstick and I need, I don't know, a vacation in the Bahamas, but really intimately know your deep emotional, spiritual, and physical needs, and then know how to go about fulfilling them. Because that's an entire art and a skill that it takes a lifetime to learn, I think. So when you're living well after 50, it means that you have learned those skills and that you can look after yourself and thus be a great person to be around.
Well, that's a great point to finish on. So thank you again for joining me, Kim. It's been a pleasure to chat to you, and I'd love to have you back to perhaps talk about some of the other topics that we only lightly touched on, but expanding on those for another episode. So thanks again, and I hope you've enjoyed being a guest.
Thank you. Absolutely lovely conversation, and I'll be happy to be back soon.
I'd love to have you back. Okay, thank you. Well, what an inspiration Kim is, coming down with MS back 10 years ago to now being a European weightlifting champion. And we don't all have to be that way, but she had some fabulous advice on how to be resilient, why we do need to do some strength training, how we should be looking at eating, and talking about resilience as well. So lots in this episode that I think that you'll be able to take away. That's it for this episode. So I hope that you'll share it with a friend who I'm sure will benefit from listening to Kim, and I'll be having her back as a guest to talk about other issues in the future that I know that you will enjoy and benefit from. So until next time, remember to live well, enjoy life, and most of all, be a woman living life your way. Bye for now.